Hello, I'm Alan Thyssen. I'm a committed lay Cistercian and an active member of the Spiritus Cyber Community associated with the Abbey of Gethsemane. In this video, I will share with you some of my personal experience with two units of the LCG Plan of Life, the Eucharist and the Liturgy of the Hours. First, a little about me. I live in Sugar Land, Texas, am married, have 3 children, and 4.5 grandchildren. I'm a member of both the Catholic and Church of Christ communities. More on that odd combination in a moment. My day job is that of serving as a cyber chaplain for a distance learning seminary with the goal of providing worldwide compassionate care to those experiencing loss, illness, grief, or other of life's disruptions. My journey to valuing the Eucharist and the Liturgy of the Hours has been active for literally over 50 years. I was raised a Catholic through high school, but after falling in love with a Church of Christ girl, converted to the Churches of Christ at age 19. That was in 1964. And to be clear, while I left the Catholic Church, I never left Christ. My introduction to the contemplative dimension of the gospel began about 28 years ago in around 1998, maybe 96. My first wife was in the midst of a terminal cancer battle, and the hospital's place of wellness offered a 3-hour introductory course called An Introduction to Contemplative Prayer. That turned out to be Thomas Keating's centering prayer. I was hooked, and for the next 10 years, Keating was my constant companion as I listened to his tapes and CDs anytime I was driving around in my car. Eventually, I met him in person at his monastery in Snowmass. Along the way, I developed a personal practice of centering prayer and relate strongly to what Keating called the divine therapy. About the same time, I went through a chaplaincy training program that was underpinned by Benedictine spirituality. So I learned of the rule of Benedict and began praying the Liturgy of the Hours as best I could. Eventually, I felt the need to identify with the Benedictine community, and after about a year of searching, landed at the Abbey of Gethsemane in Kentucky. And the rest is history, except that last year I realigned with the Roman Catholic sacramental system, and that gave me access to the Catholic Eucharist. One of my favorite quotes is from Sister Alice Potts, a sister of divine providence. Alice was a chaplain at MD Anderson Cancer Center, and we became friends. She had a saying that I want everything I come in contact with to be affected by the presence of God in my life. That became my goal as well. So how do I get and keep God in my life? First of all, I attend Mass about 5 mornings each week. What better way to begin the day than an intimate encounter with Jesus Christ in the Eucharist? But I'm drawn to the Mass for more reasons than just the Eucharistic liturgy. I experience about 100 believers from all walks of life who come together to read scripture, receive a homily, pray, confess, and hold hands while they're reciting the Our Father. All of that in addition to the Eucharistic side. With regard to the Mass, I felt like a little bit like Rip Van Winkle. When I left the Roman Catholic Church in 1964, the St. Joseph Daily Missal still printed the Latin text next to the English translation. So 55 years later, I've reawakened post-Vatican II and discovered a new and improved liturgy. Actually, in a sense, I never left the Mass. The St. Joseph's Missal has remained in my nightstand all these years. And around 1990, I spent a week in Tiberias, Israel. Each day I would drive the short distance to the synagogue that Jesus taught in at Capernaum. I meditated there for days, slowly injecting into my mind the Sermon on the Mount. By the way, that was my ultimate Lectio Divina. Also during that week, I rewrote the Mass so that it better reflected my own, now Protestant, mindset. It was only later that I discovered that the Episcopalians, the Methodists, the Lutherans, and others were there ahead of me. Secondly, I follow the divine office or liturgy of the hours as each day progresses. I can seldom do all 7 offices, but with the aid of my iPhone's alarm clock, I at least pause and recognize the times for terce, sex, known, etc. This keeps me somewhat centered in what Brother Lawrence called practicing the presence of God. Then there are a couple of odd ways I follow the divine office. I often fall asleep at night listening to the Gethsemane recording of Compline playing in the background. And in the morning, I tend to listen to the audio version of I. Brewery's morning prayer while I'm cleaning up. I like to call this shaving with God. So there you have it. The Eucharist and divine office, combined with centering prayer and other spiritual practices, underpin my pursuit of the LCG Plan of Life. My greatest difficulty is in balancing the time required with the time required for other aspects of the plan of life and the regular demands of living a secular life away from the monastery. In any case, the structured practice I am able to do has served to reorient me from a checklist-driven life to more of a go-with-the-flow existence. Sure, I still have the checklists, but they take a back seat to living in the present moment.